I've wanted to do Q&A videos for a while, and I just haven't. And now I'm going to, because the only way to start doing something is to start doing it. So here's the first ever Q&A video on this channel. I'm going to take questions from the comment section of my videos and answer some of them. And I'm kind of picking them, just kind of scrolling through and picking them out. Also, my band Bentley is about to go on tour again, so here are some of the dates. We're going to have more throughout the summer at our website and stuff. So if you can come to the shows, it's great to meet people and play for y'all in person. So yeah. This first question comes from Nicholas Mackelprang. And he writes, "Hi, cool video," in reference to my video called Chords and Stuff, in which I talk about a way of thinking about chords. And he says, this video reminds me a little of some concepts in Paul Hindemith's book, The Craft of Musical Composition. In this book, he classifies chords based on the intervals in the chord, and then classifies these categories into different levels of dissonance/consonance. And his idea is to come up with a theory to analyze tension/release without relating it back to a particular key. Wondering if you've checked this book out and what your thoughts on it would be. Well, Nicholas, that's a great question, because I have an intimate relationship with this book. So I have it right here. I have two of them. I have The Craft of Musical Composition by Paul Hindemith, Book 1. And I also have Book 2, which are exercises in two-part writing. And so, basically, for anyone who is confused by the question, because he's describing something pretty complex, these books, well, this book kind of presents music theory in a way that's not really focused on keys, but is focused on how chords sound and how they create more tension or less tension in relation to each other. And to be honest, I've never gotten through the book. I've never been able to finish it. I've given it a pretty good try. I've reread a bunch of pages to try to understand them better, but it's a hard read. It's really heavy, really dense. The thing that's trickiest about it is it starts out with a proposal for a whole new way of tuning our instruments. And it gets into the acoustics of it, and it's talking about, all the different overtones and exactly how you would tune them. I'll read just a random excerpt. I'll start at the beginning of a sentence. "To explain the tone that is really the next most closely related, the major sixth, it would be necessary to interrupt the process of following the overtone series directly upwards, since the major sixth lies between tones 3 and 5, and for the derivation of the remaining tones from a single overtone series, in anything like the order that corresponds to practical musical experience, no rule can be found." So that was one sentence, and most of them are like that. And it's brilliant, brilliant stuff. Paul Hindemith's no joke. Guy, the idea of presenting theory that's not centered around a key and then categorizing it in a way that a lot of the results from his book are really harmonious anyway. It was a step away from the atonal 12-tone writing that was going on at the time, which was much, much more dissonant. He is saying in this book that we like the triad, we want to bring back regular old chords, but let's think about them this way. That's kind of the idea I got from it. But Nicholas, just to answer your question, yes, I was definitely influenced by that book. I have a tough relationship with it because I've tried finishing it a number of times and I haven't been able to. But that's my fault. It's not like I can't read, I can read it, and it's just hard for my brain to get what he's saying. But the second book, I'm going to give long answers, I decided. The second book in the series is just exercises in writing for two parts, writing counterpoint for two melodies. And it's a really great structure. He basically has a billion different rules, and he gives you one rule at a time, and they build up, and as you go through the book, these he has you writing two melodies that work together, and within certain parameters, and the parameters become more and more difficult throughout the book. So if you're feeling like you need a real challenge for your counterpoint writing, you can just skip to book 2 and read the exercises and and try to write that way. Our next question comes from Miguel Fernandez Millan, and he's writing in reference to a video that I made about learning the notes on the neck, and I offer one way that you could go about learning the notes. So he says, "Hey, I have a problem with the notes. It's that I find them useless for what I do. For example, I can get all the shapes the way you said, find those 3 notes and play them in the shape that sounds better for that moment in that song or whatever. But I don't know the name of those notes. I also don't play with people that know too much about reading music, so it's also useless to transcribe music. And I don't read sheet music because the music I like usually has no sheet music and you have to learn it by ear, or it has only tabs, which of course tell you how to play them. But you can also get what they're playing from there and play any piece of music, whatever you like." So my understanding of the question is basically Miguel is asking, why should I learn the notes on the neck when the people I play with don't really talk about music in those terms and they don't read, so writing music down in notation wouldn't be useful. And I learn most of the music I like from my ear or from tabs, and even if I try to learn the notes on the neck, I still see shapes. So this is a really important question because I encourage every guitarist, every musician to learn notes and to name all the notes on the neck and really ingrain that in your head. And here's why. If you learn guitar purely as shapes, purely in terms of shapes, there are so many shapes. I mean, hundreds. And the variations on those shapes and the geometry, it can change so much. And you can just fill all your time trying to memorize these shapes. And then you might memorize these shapes and not know what chord they are, or what chord they're kind of like, or what notes are in the chord that you've made. And so then you've memorized all these shapes, but they're not necessarily related to each other. It's very hard to make that connection if you're thinking purely in shapes of how one shape goes with another, besides just trial and error. And I, of course, learn music in terms of shapes. Like, that's a big part of learning music. But with notation, it's really a lot less information you have to learn. Like, learning what notes are on each neck, or each fret on the neck, is less information to need to learn by a lot than learning every possible configuration of chords purely based on shapes. And when you know the notes on the neck and you study some theory, just a little bit, you are able to form the chords that you want in an improvisational manner. In other words, you can say, I want a G major chord. And I know what notes are in G major because I've studied some theory. And so I need a G, a B, and a D. Ah, there's a G, there's a B. That's at least part of a G major chord. Where's there a D? Oh, here's a D. All right, I need a G major over here. Well, where's a G? Where's a B? Where's a D? It's actually very quick to find a G, B, and D when you get a little bit of practice in finding notes. And you can start forming your own shapes for any given chord you want. You form the shapes from your knowledge rather than having to memorize the shapes flat out without having any rhyme or reason or clear DNA that is consistent through all the shapes you know. So in other words, when you learn the notes and a bit of theory, you can memorize the chord shapes easier because they make sense in a whole other way. You have a whole other layer of knowledge about them. And you can also find shapes without having known them in advance and know exactly what you're looking for and know how to get it, even without necessarily knowing what shape you're going to play. So I hope that makes sense. It's worth the time. It's so worth the time. And you're always better off trying to learn more and expand your understanding of music and then find out later how it benefits you, rather than creating like a perfectly cut mold of this is all the skill I'm going to need in my life. I've found that whenever I try to say, I'm not going to learn that, and I am not going to learn that, and I'm going to learn this, I start to limit over time more and more my abilities, my potential. So for example, personal example, certain techniques, certain tempos of speed picking, and certain levels of technique, I've said, well, my music these days, I'm not that interested in shredding, so I don't really want to spend the time to learn to shred. But what I've found is lately I've started working on that stuff again because I've been really inspired by this saxophonist named Colin Stetson. I've been really inspired to play like he does, and he's really fast, but it's for a beautiful purpose. But if I had been working on technique, I'd already be there. But the main point is that now that I've been working on my technique more, I've found that all that stuff I used to be playing before that isn't fast, so it didn't seem like I needed all the chops, that stuff is much smoother now, and I have much more control over it. So I didn't think I would need something, and then later I ended up learning that thing. And only after I learned it did I realize it could have been helping me out with what I thought I needed all along. So I hope that makes sense. I'm kind of a rambly boy. And yeah, I'm going to just do one more question because I think like getting thorough and personal with these questions is kind of the vibe I want to go for here. So let's see. Okay, this last question is from Jack Pepper. And Jack writes, I'm hoping someone can clarify and make sure I've got this right. I've been trying to figure out modes for a while, and it just never seems to sink in. So, say a song is in A major, and I play the A Ionian scale over it, starting from the third note. I would then be playing in C sharp Phrygian. I could just play that over an A major chord progression. So modes are essentially just changing the tonal center of the scale. If that's right, then thank you, Ben. You're the first person who's been able to explain it in a clear enough way for my simple brain to understand. If it's not right, then god damn it. Well, you're almost there, I think. See, and I apologize that I found it to be a difficult subject to really make clear enough without any like personal feedback. It's pretty easy to teach in person, but it's kind of hard to teach online through YouTube videos. But what you're saying is that if there's like an A major chord progression, actually I should get a guitar out for this. You're saying if there's an A major chord progression and you play over it using the key of A major but starting on C sharp, la, that you'll be in C sharp Phrygian. Now the thing is that C sharp Phrygian is in the key of A major, so you're getting that, you're on the right track, but it won't sound like C sharp Phrygian because a mode is created not just by the scale that you play, but it's created by the chords and the context in the music as well. So if I sing C sharp, D, E, F sharp, G sharp, A, that's in the key of A major, starting on C sharp. So if I didn't have any other context there, and I just went and it feels like it ends on C sharp, la, if that's home bass, then yeah, you're in C sharp Phrygian because you're right, like then the tonal center really does sound like it's C sharp even though you're in the key of A. But if I play just A major chord progressions randomly and sing the C sharp Phrygian scale, la 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 la, A still feels like the tonal center. So even though I'm playing or singing the C sharp Phrygian scale, since the chords are so heavily rooted around landing on A major, it sounds like we're still in the mode of A Ionian, even though I am performing a C sharp Phrygian scale over these chords, and it doesn't change the tonal center to be C sharp. It still feels like the tonal center is A. But if I played different chords, like let's say I played those chords, which are also still in the key of A major, but I think emphasize C sharp as a home bass a little more. Now I'm going to be in Phrygian. Singing the C sharp Phrygian scale, C sharp, D, D, C sharp, sharp, D, E, F sharp, G sharp, G sharp, F sharp, E, D, C sharp. And as long as that sounds like a satisfying ending and C sharp sounds like home bass, then you're in C sharp Phrygian. So to summarize, you are right about the following. You're right that in the key of A, the third mode is C sharp Phrygian. You are right that the notes in a C sharp Phrygian scale are just the same as an A major scale, but starting on C sharp. The only thing you're still a little stuck on is what makes it actually sound like C sharp Phrygian as opposed to just A major. And the answer is a combination of the notes in the melody and the notes in the harmony, and whether or not that combination makes C sharp truly sound like home bass, like the tonal center. Like you could end on the C sharp note in the bass and end on a C sharp minor chord, and you're done. Then you know you're in the mode C sharp Phrygian. So, hope that was helpful. And if not, there's got to be someone else on the internet who can explain it. I've tried, I think, 3 different ways now. But I wish you all the best, and I'm very grateful that I can even have questions to answer, because it makes me feel useful.